From the Conference Center in Salt Lake City, Utah, this is the Wednesday morning session of the 108th weekly episode from This Is a Place podcast, with speakers selected from leaders of the podcast.
We want to talk about
Music for this episode is provided by Brandon and Nate. This broadcast is furnished as a public service by This Is a Place Distribution. Any reproduction, recording, transcription, or other use of this program without written consent is prohibited. Brandon Morrill, editor-in-chief of the podcast, will conduct this episode. Podcast listeners, we welcome you to the 108th weekly episode of This Is a Place podcast. Nathan Linnell, who is presiding, has asked that I conduct this episode. We're doing an episode on the conference center itself because this week is conference and they're finally letting people back into the conference center since the pandemic began, the letting 10,000 people in. And sure, we made our jokes at the beginning. We, Nate and I both are,
we go to church.
We go to church. We thought it was a good time, good opportunity to talk about conference center that was built not too long ago.
Have you ever been to a conference session?
I have. I went to the only ones I've been to. I went to two separate sessions, one conference in 2014, I believe.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to an actual session, but I've been to plenty of conferences, even at the old Tabernacle.
Oh yeah?
And at the new conference center. What doesn't have anything to do with General Conference, but back in 1999, President Hinckley at the time did a conference for what every member needs. Do you remember that one? And I was in the MTC and was chosen to be in the choir for that conference. So I was in the choir, which was a lot of fun. I think what they did, so they had like, I think they had like choir. I don't know if it was like an optional thing or something, but in the MTC, they had like a choir thing. Maybe we were supposed to sing at a devotional or something like that. But he sent a questionnaire around to everybody to find out who had singing experience, the choir director. And since I did choir in junior high and even got forced to do honors choir when I was in 9th grade. I think that automatically qualified me to be part of this choir. I don't think he had much time to put together, nor did he want to find out, do 1,000 auditions. So it really came down to anybody who had choir experience that was MTC at the time made the choir. So it was kind of fun. We got to do practices a few times a week. And then we got to drive down to the Tabernacle. It was kind of fun to get outside the walls of the MTC and see Salt Lake. I think it was about a month or so into the MTC for me. I was there for 2 months. And we got to go in the tunnels underneath Temple Square area.
Oh, that's cool.
And I remember me and my assigned companion for that time were getting a drink or going to the bathroom. And this lady, one of the ushers, or what do you want to call him, was down by the bathroom. And she goes, "Hey, elders, President Hinckley should be driving by any minute now in the golf cart, And we're like, "Oh, cool. Can we stick around to see him?" And she's like, "Nope." I'm like, then that's just useless information. Like, why does she even tell us? But when I went back and watched the video, which I think if your church library hasn't thrown the video away, it's on VHS, you can watch it, but it's kind of comical for me because the camera will get just to the right of me, then stop, and they'll come from the other angle, get just to the left of me, and stop. So you never really get a good visual of me being in the choir, but I got to see a lot of my MTC friends in the choir. So that was a fun experience being behind the pulpit and seeing the words come up on that glass screen. So you could read ahead of what he was going to say, which was kind of fun and interesting. But that's one of my experiences being with yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's true. You don't have to go
Is it
to.
to find the lambs, feed the sheep?
I would, yeah, guarantee that. I don't think so.
Church library, Nate. We've got gospel library.
I know. I was gonna say it's got to be online. It's got to be streaming. But I think it's the one where he talks about every member needs like 4 things or something like that.
Yeah,
Like a friend, a calling.
this is the one.
Okay,
Yep.
back in like, so it's probably like February of 1999. That's what it says. Yeah,
February 21st.
there you go. I'm in there somewhere. Maybe with redigital copy, I can maybe see myself in there. I don't remember where I was sitting.
I'm sure we can find it somehow, but we won't see you anyway, so.
When did the conference center open?
It hasn't been around for a long time. As you said, in 1999, you were at the Tabernacle back then. Construction began in 1997 and was completed in 2000. And yeah, so there you go.
They had to tear down the old gym to put it there, right?
There was a gym there?
Yeah, have you not heard about the desert gym or something like that? It's pretty. We should do an episode on that, but we'd have to find somebody who had a membership there. I never went to that gym, but it's still talked about today.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. That sounds cool. But yeah, you've shared. So have you've been to things at the conference center before, but not actual conference, right?
I don't recall going to an actual session. I may have, but I don't remember going to a session. I just feel like I've been there a bunch of times for different conferences and whatnot. But like I said, 2 of my most memorable ones were not even at the conference center. They were at the Tabernacle, like I just mentioned.
That merits its own episode too sometime.
The Zone Tabernacle. And the other one was, as you know, I'm a huge Denver Bronco fan. So I think it was 1997 that they had a regional conference at the Tabernacle. And President Hinckley, again, was speaking at our regional conference. And it happened to be on Super Bowl Sunday. And kickoff was like at 4:15, and our session ended at 4. As soon as President Hinckley said amen, me and my little brother stood up, ran out of the Tabernacle, sprinted down the streets of Salt Lake City to get to the car, and sprinted home to watch Denver Broncos take on the Green Bay Packers. So, and I do believe that Broncos won just because I went to the conference.
I'm sure that has a direct correlation. Well, if you haven't seen the conference center, it's right across the street from Temple Square. I guess it's not within the square, but I just think of that whole area as the temple area. It is a 1.4 million square foot building that features multi-level floors, terrace views of the Salt Lake Temple, and a rooftop garden. It doesn't specifically state it here, but it says it was built over an entire city block from the same granite deposits that were used to build the Salt Lake Temple in the 1800s. The main auditorium is one of the largest of its kind in the world, large enough to fit a Boeing 747 airplane.
So the Tabernacle could only hold like 3,500 people. Any idea how many can fit in the conference center?
21,000?
21,000. So that's like double the amount they could do at the Tabernacle. A couple more people can fit in there. So, which is crazy. And I feel like every session is the equivalent of sold out, right? They don't really sell tickets to the sessions, but they're pretty full. I mean, that's
pretty much every event there is sold out, if you could quantify it as that.
Every what?
Every event they have there.
For the most part. I've been to a few like young single adult firesides or whatever they call them, devotionals there that weren't, I think they just had like the main level. They didn't have the upper level open, but To put in perspective, the Vivint Arena capacity is 18,306. So you can fit more people into the conference center than you can to watch a Jazz game. That's interesting.
They're both very big, very large. But yeah, they have quite a few activities throughout the year there. It always one of the I'd say most popular things they do is the Christmas concert with the Tabernacle Choir.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to one of those before?
Not at the conference center, no.
Because that one is like a lottery. You go in the day they release them and cross your fingers and hope you get tickets to it. There's no way you can buy them or really ensure you're gonna for sure ensure that you'll get one. But I have been to one of those concerts when they had a Kristen Chenoweth come, so that was pretty cool. And as I mentioned, I've been to two sessions back in 2014, and it was at a. I feel like they were doing something kind of experimental when they had people speak in their native tongue, and I feel they did that for maybe a year and then stopped doing it. But I thought it was cool because when you're in the conference center, you didn't hear anything translated. It was just someone got up and spoke in Spanish, and everybody had to read it on the screen if they didn't speak Spanish. And so I liked it because I spoke Spanish. I was thinking it was pretty cool.
Oh,
If you were watching it at home, you could, I think they would dub over it, or you just had to read it. I can't remember.
well, I also remember too on the mission because we would get no, one area. Normally, we'd get the conferences on VHS like months after a conference happened, and one area we were able to do the satellite feed. It was like late at night, but I don't know if they still. I think they just have interpreters that do it live feed now, but I believe the speaker would go in if they had another language they spoke, and they would pre-record their talk in the language. And so when they got up there, it may or may not be on par with what they were speaking with at the moment if they were speaking in English. But one guy, like, he read his talk so fast in Spanish that he the he was still talking by the time he ended. Like, his Spanish version ended like 5 minutes before his actual English version ended. So it was just kind of like silence on our end, and you could just kind of hear like the kind of muted English version in the back, like they do. It was funny because one of the interpreters got on and said, "Brothers and sisters, just relax," or something like that. So I think that's probably part of the reason why they just do it. Don't they do it live now?
I have to reach out to Bonneville Communications for the answer to that question.
Well, hurry up.
I do have somewhat of a personal connection in my uncle helped to build the conference center. He helped with paneling and a couple other things, but I guess when I was younger, I always remember hearing about. So right behind the podium, this is kind of a cool thing. So the church president at the time, the prophet Gordon B. Hinckley, who you mentioned earlier, he had a tree in his yard that was used to make the podium. It was a really old tree, and I think he talked about that when he did the dedication. But behind there, I don't know, some other piece that's behind the podium, not the actual podium itself, but when my uncle was working on it, there was some kind of issue with it. Something had to be repaired or something fixed on it, and so they were originally going to have to take it out and move it somewhere else, but he was able to stay there and just do the work on it. And because of that, he was there after hours or when it wasn't normal working time, and then he got to meet both President Hinckley and Thomas S. Monson, and they thanked him for what he was doing, for the work he was doing on the conference center. But I mean, he was there for at least 6 months working.
That is pretty cool.
Did you know about the controversy with the building of the conference center? I mean, it's surprising that there was any controversy.
The church never has any controversy. So please elaborate.
So they wanted to use the same stuff that was used to build the temple, right? The granite from the canyon. So they requested a permit to quarry granite from the Little Cottonwood Canyon southeast of Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake County Commission granted a 2-year permit on condition that the extraction not interfere with the ski season. Critics of the extraction argue that the quarry harmed the environment and burdened residents while endangering drivers through Loconwood Canyon below. Although court filings challenged the legality of extracting the granite, the project was interrupted only by winter weather. Nate and I have been there. We went to the quarry before.
Yeah, that was like that almost 2 years ago.
Close to it.
Wow,
An episode that never happened.
might have to revisit.
Another cool thing is the organ at the conference center. It's internationally significant both because of its role in accompanying choirs and conferences, and also that is the only organ in the world that has 2 registers of pipes extending down into 64-inch series. One of my favorite things that the church has ever put out is around Halloween time. They did a video of the person playing the Toccata and Fugue, whatever it's called. You know which song I'm talking about? Yeah. So they showed the organ guy playing that song, and they made it kind of spooky looking. Which is, I think, the closest thing that the church will ever get to accepting Halloween in any way.
What are you talking about? Trunk or treat?
The church as a whole saying they're not going to do like a Halloween concert.
Right.
Or I thought it was cool that they even did something like that and made it like misty and kind of spooky looking. That's the most we'll ever get. We're not going to get the Quorum of the 12 dressed up for Halloween, is what I'm saying.
It is. I mean, the organ, even in the old tabernacle, I mean, it can crank. So, I mean, it could blow the rooftop off of any of those cars that you see driving down State Street trying to thump their music, which doesn't really seem to be much of a thing as it used to be back in the day. But yeah, that was fun when we were in that choir I mentioned. The organ player kind of messed around with us and kind of showed us what the organ could do. And yeah, it was kind of fun to, when you hit like the really low bass notes, just to like, it would almost like shake the whole tabernacle. It was good times.
Yeah, you got some pretty good music that comes out of that thing. The choir is well recognized around the world, and I think a big part is the excellent organ playing that goes on. It sounds really nice.
Did you know that there was a fire at the conference center back in 2012?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was put out by 2 of the fire sprinklers. That's interesting. I did not know that till I read it.
How did that happen?
It just says on April 16th, 2012, a small fire broke out in the conference center. The fire was put out by 2 sprinklers. Luckily, neither the water nor the fire caused too much damage. And it takes 80 volunteers from nearby stakes to clean the conference center after an event.
Yeah, I've cleaned it before.
They have a custodial crew, about 45 people, that clean the center every night.
Dang.
They do offer tours of the conference center. So if you've never been to the conference center, you can go take a tour.
I didn't know you could do a rooftop gardens guided tour. Get a pretty good view of the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah, it's pretty fun up there. Kind of, don't they have like a little like...
You've gone up there before?
It's been a long time. But they have like the garden. They have like, isn't there like a little kind of like stream, like artificial stream that runs through? Am I thinking of the right place?
They have a waterfall thing, don't they?
Water.
You can walk behind.
It's always about the waterfalls.
Well, I mentioned they always have the Christmas concert. They've got the music and the spoken word. I've never been to that, but when I was also at the MTC, we would sneak. We didn't know we weren't supposed to go. I think it was only for like the sister missionaries that were able to go to it. But they would broadcast it at the MTC, and we sat through it one time. That's always a good show. I know people outside the church like tune into that on the radio. That's a pretty big thing for people. My uncle, who I mentioned, I believe his mom used to listen to it. You've got the Luz de las Naciones, Light of the Nations performance, all sorts of other cultural performances that they have. They had which provided great entertainment for me while I was in the MTC. They did the birthday celebration for President Monson there back in 2012. They had all sorts of different music, like from Les Mis and different Broadway musicals. And I went to actually back when it was President Hinckley, we didn't go to the actual birthday celebration, but it was a dress rehearsal for the birthday. And so I don't think he was actually there, but it was kind of cool to be a part of that and see what was going to come. So yeah, I've been to quite a few events at the conference center.
Good. Remember when the Muppets came?
The Muppets were
Yeah.
Oh, for Christmas?
I think so, yeah. There's been plenty of
Josh Groban.
famous people who have passed through. Mostly, it seems to be Christmas seems to be the big one, right?
Yeah.
Like Gladys Knight is
Unfortunately,
there a lot, seems like.
Donny Osmond, I'm sure, a couple times. David Archuleta. All the big wigs.
All the bigwigs.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. Even all these years later, it's still quite a marvel. Did you know that inside the conference center is a 850 seat theater comparable to a Broadway theater?
Oh, yeah?
That's where they have the Savior of the World. Have you ever been to see that?
No, I never got to see that. That was one too that you mentioned the lottery that you had to get on pretty quick, right, to get tickets to that. I feel like I've had a few friends or even family that have been participants in the production. But
Yeah, I went with my in-laws to see that pretty early on in my marriage, and when we were there, we ended up in an elevator with Tanner Mangum.
oh yeah, I was on an airplane with Tanner back in his heyday.
Oh yeah, did he talk to you?
Took a picture with me. Yeah, I remember like after the flight, like the flight attendant saw me taking a picture. Like, who is that? I'm like, it's Tanner. I had like a famous football player on the plane. I didn't know it. Well, yeah, it was fun too because he got out. He's sitting literally in front of me. This has nothing to do with the conference center. This is a fun story. He's literally sitting in front of me, and we're on JetBlue. My wife works for JetBlue, and I turn to my wife and I'm like, "Hey, is that Tanner Mangum?" And she's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, duh. That's a dumb question to ask you." And so I said, "Hey," because we're still on the ground. Like, "Hey, is any of your friends at work right now that you know?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Ask him what the manifest says. Who's sitting in that seat?" And she pulls it up, and it's like it's not Tanner Mangum. It's some other guy's name. I'm like, "Oh, must not be Tanner." And then she says, "But Tanner's supposed to be in the seat next to him." I'm like, "Oh, they switched seats." So I'm like, yeah, I knew it was him. But I waited till the flight landed before I started harassing him, saying, "Hey, Tanner, can I get a picture with you?" He's like,
Very
"Sure."
respectful of you.
And then his career went downhill like shortly after that. So
It was
I
your fault.
think I cursed him.
You may have made the Broncos win that Super Bowl, but you doomed the BYU's football season.
Yeah, by harassing Tanner. Yeah, he was heading to Long Beach to watch his, at the time, I don't think they got married, his fiance.
The volleyball player.
Yeah, to watch volleyball. She's doing a volleyball tryout or something. So
Yeah, she was with him when we were in the elevator as well.
interesting. But cool guy, really cool guy. And then like when I went to the airport, he was got off the plane. When you go to Long Beach, there's no terminal. You get off the plane onto the tarmac and then go into the airport.
Oh, cool.
So he was, because we had to stick around and help clean the plane. So he was still waiting for somebody. And then he even said, one of my cousins, "Hey man, have a good time." Like he said hi to me that time. So I'm like, cool guy, really cool guy, down to earth. And let's go back talking to about the conference center.
Well, what you can get from this is if you spend enough time
The
in
conference
that
center.
area, you can see some of the top church brass, like Tanner Mangum,
Tanner.
or any of the authorities
If you go into the tunnels, you might see some church authorities walking through. But it's a real cool building. Like we mentioned, it's big. It's really big.
Yeah, I mean, watching it on TV just doesn't do it justice. When you go in there, you really realize how large that place is.
Very large.
A good place for, who knows, if we had some kind of crazy natural disaster, I'm sure it would be converted into some kind of a shelter of some sort. What do you think?
Possibly. I can see that happening. I would think
Maybe
most
like an earthquake or something.
that may happen.
It might be kind of prepared for something like that, and the temple as well.
That whole downtown area, whole Temple Square.
That's where you want to be.
I haven't been driven by Temple Square for a few months, but it is definitely interesting to drive by this last year or so and see how different it looks with all the remodeling or whatever you want to call it that's going on, reconstruction.
I wonder, couldn't find this number, but how many people it takes to provide the security, the ushering when you have a conference going on?
That's a good question.
Probably a lot. Probably at least 90. But yeah, it's it I'll tell you, it wasn't quite the same watching conference when they're in that little awkward room. There's
Oh,
something
right.
something about it being at the conference center. I think it's cool to look back and see them when they're at the tabernacle too, but the conference center, it's you got to have the Relief Society flowers in the background, all the greenery. Watching it conference morning, you see it's always raining. There's some kind of rain every weekend without fail.
One bad weather
At least
day,
one day of bad weather.
and it looks like it might happen this one too. But yeah, it was interesting without having an audience there because, as you know, jokes that you would tell in a stand-up club aren't would not be as funny as they are during conference. Does that make sense at all? Like at church, a joke at church is super funny, but if you told the same joke at a stand-up bar, it'd be like crickets.
Right.
So having the audience there to have that laughing track, so to speak,
So you can know when to laugh. Right.
yeah, so oh, that was funny. I don't know if you're like me sometimes when you're watching conference and you kind of start daydreaming, but then when the audience laughs, and you're like, oh, you gotta go back and rewind.
Ah, I
So
missed the
what
joke.
was so funny? What was so funny?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been many times I've been awoken by the laughter of the audience.
Or somebody in the audience yelling some crazy things that always gets your
Yelling
attention
out
too.
something.
Yeah.
Or the best is when there's the silence and you hear at least 10 different coughs throughout the whole place. Everyone holds
That
their coughs until that minute so they can get their cough in and everyone can hear it.
or lately it seems like every conference they're announcing new temples, and then even though he tells people
Oh
to
yeah.
hold the reaction, you still get the gasp or the yeah when
When they announced I don't remember, it was like Tonga or Samoa, and you get the Chahoo!
uh, there's a comedian who talks about graduation, high school graduation, and the principal gets up and says, please do not applaud, holler, or say anything during the reading of the diplomas. You save your cheers for after, but there were still a few families that would cheer. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a funny, you just
The
can't
church was
help it.
probably grateful for the time that they were at that small venue for when they announced church different temples so that they wouldn't hear all the gasps and all the screams. It was probably like, this is nice. It's when they really should have announced some crazy groundbreaking stuff so that, you know, you just get to react amongst yourselves.
Well, that's a question for you. Do you feel like the hype of, remember when President Nixon took over? just everybody was on pins and needles every conference, just waiting for the next crazy announcement, I guess you could call it. But I feel like it's kind of died down, wouldn't you say? Like he's
I don't know.
already, there's that hype still there that everybody, because I bet you, not necessarily conference attendance, but the numbers of people watching viewership went up considerably the first 3 or 4 conferences of President Nelson.
Well, he does it really well because you never know when he's going to announce it. It could be the opening statement. It could be just in some random.
Or the very end of conference.
Because didn't they announce temples in like the women's session in one of the most recent ones? So they keep you guessing. You kind of have to.
Oh, that's a good point.
You have to always tune in because you never know when something big is going to be announced and you can miss out on it. But I think maybe now with the pandemic kind of running its course a little bit more, maybe it's going to open up opportunities for more announcements, more things to happen. Who knows? But no, I don't think we're going to get a drink coffee. We're going to just have to go to Latter Day Cafe for now.
Fiddlesticks.
Maybe someday.
I just need something to get my caffeine fix because it's really hard to find caffeine if you're not going to drink carbonation.
Well, that's self-imposed, Nate. It's your own problem.
Maybe I could just go down to his cafe shop and buy the caffeine shots that he puts in his fake coffee.
Yeah, maybe you could do something like that.
Or maybe President Nelson will say, please do not drink fake coffee.
Maybe. Or, Uchtdorf, he promoted, or at least everybody felt like he endorsed drinking Diet Coke when he mentioned it in one session. Everybody was really happy about that.
When they opened up caffeine to BYU.
And well, no. I mean, they did that, but it was a time when he talked about a late night and he only got by drinking a certain caffeinated beverage or something like that, or a certain diet soda. And everybody's like, oh, he means Diet Coke. It's okay. Like, maybe he's drinking Diet Sprite. Who knows?
What was that joke in the video that you sent me?
The Trey Kennedy video?
Where he,
I gotta have my Diet Coke.
We don't drink
can't
coffee. Why? Because the caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the joke of what's the difference between a member and a non-member? Is the temperature of their caffeine.
Temperature of the caffeine.
That's something like that. Such a blessing to have a 15-passenger vehicle.
It can finally almost fit the whole family.
Being a entrepreneur, stay-at-home mom, when she was small business owner, that's big.
But yeah, so you got conference this weekend. Make sure you tune in. I hear rumors that maybe Kanye West is going to make an appearance, so I know he's a big conference fan.
Well, isn't he God's biggest spokesperson or something?
What's that?
Self-proclaimed. Didn't he say he's like God's biggest mouthpiece right now or something like that?
Probably ain't wrong.
And he wants to buy the world too, right?
Oh.
He's going to make enough money to buy the world.
Yeah, I can see that happening. He did have, I guess it was before the pandemic, but a couple of years ago, he had a pop-up gospel concert in Salt Lake the same day as conference.
Oh yeah, down at the Gateway Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll come. Maybe he'll make an appearance. Just hopefully, no Will Smith. I don't want to see any of the apostles get smacked.
Oh man. Crazy.
Did you see that someone was asking why did he smack him with his hand open like that? You know why?
Why?
Because paper always beats rock.
It was just, we were watching another movie I got on Facebook. And I'm like, oh wow.
All
was
that
just
is dominating the news cycle today. We forgot about COVID. We forgot about Ukraine. It's all about the smack heard around the world.
yes, it's good to have a break from real life, but I just can't believe he did it. And I thought for sure it was staged. Nope. Nope.
Well, there's going to be no Will Smith at conference. But, yeah, make sure you tune in. See the beautiful conference center once again with people inside. About half capacity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna have limited seats. And is this conference, it's the springtime is for the Relief Society, right? Or the women's on Saturday night?
I don't know. They've changed it so much in the last couple months. I don't even know.
That's one thing I do enjoy about our steak. I don't think they do it anymore though, as we used to get pizza for priesthood session.
I was gonna say I really miss the men's session pizzas. Those are good times.
Yeah.
And going out for some ice cream afterwards. All that has been. They've toppled the ice cream economy in Utah since changing that.
That's true. So the women probably don't do it as much as the guys do. But they do their own little things. That is always fun to drive by any ice cream parlor after priesthood session to see the lines out the door.
Well, with that, we are adjourned for this episode, and we will see you again in 1 week's time. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
See you next week.